Hi, I'm Beth Gantz with the Small Business Development Center at Lorain County Community College, and I'm excited for today's Let's Chat with Rick Slark. So, hi, Rick.
Hello, how are you today?
Good. How are you? Rick,
Really
tell us
good.
more about your business.
I work with the SBDC, obviously, and I also have a consulting business, Slark Consulting Business, and we focus in on growth businesses who have found a profitable market. And as they're growing, they experience new problems that they didn't realize they were going to experience, and we help them in that space.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, we're thrilled to have you as one of our coaches. And I always say I'm excited about our Let's Chats because I always learn something and I always find them so valuable. And hopefully those of you listening do too. And today's Let's Chat is about, that the position in your industry, right? Understanding where you fit in the industry, why it's important, how do you separate yourself and all of that. So I just want to dive in and start with, why is the position, the industry position, or the where you think you fit in your industry important for someone to know, whether you're the solopreneur or you're a business with 25 employees? Why is that important?
Yeah, and I really love this topic. And honestly, I think for me, I might be the only one in the country that thinks this, but it's a little confusing to me when we talk about market positioning, right? So in a business, we all answer these questions, that we learned in elementary school: who, what, why, what, when, where, those kind of things. And so, let's walk through that. So, who, me as a business owner, what, my product, whatever industry you've decided to get into as a business owner, whether it's landscaping or manufacturing or whatever. Then why, Simon Sinek made that out of his book, your why, find your why. Everybody's asking that question, right? So why? And so people kind of have an understanding that I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for, anybody else, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When is now or in the near future. I'm either doing it now or I'm doing it in the near future. And the important question we're going to deal with today is where, right? So you've got all those other ones, but where are you going to do it? So most of us just start our business, or we take over a business that's been operating for a while. And we really don't think about the industry or the place that our business is, not necessarily geographically, but the way the industry looks. And I'm a big believer in really understanding the industry you're in. And today that's kind of what we're going to talk about.
Would
And
you liken that to
go
maybe
ahead,
finding
sorry.
your niche? Sorry, would you liken that to like finding that niche in
Yeah,
that?
for sure.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
like to think of the industry, I think of it as a box, right? And I'll give you another metaphor here in a minute, but yeah, I would say niche is a good is a good word for that as well.
Okay.
So as I mentioned earlier, the word market positioning, those words kind of throw me off. They make me think of Facebook and how I should be marketing and we're not talking about that today. And so the way to clarify it for me was real simple. I just transposed the words and I just put position in the market. So what is my position in my market? And I changed the word from market to industry. So what is my position in my industry, right? Where do I fit in this space, industry wise? And so let's talk about how do we find that positioning, and then we'll talk about why it's important
Right.
as well. So the first thing to do to help find your position in your industry is to identify the cast. So I want to think about today that we are at our school play, right? The kids are in school, and of course your kids are the most adorable ones in the play. We know that, and they are in this play. So think of the stage as your industry, right? So we got the stage, and we have in that industry, we have the person we don't like, right? It's the horrible person in the play that we don't like. We'll call those our competitor or our rival, right? So we've got our competitor. Who is our competitor? Then we have another person in that spot is people that are kind of in the same space as us, and we'll call those our sidekick or our friend. These are people business wise that we could build relationship with, and we could help one another out. We could partner or collaborate with one another. So that would be the sidekick. But then off in the wings, and they don't come in until the second act, is these new entrants. And these will be competitors that aren't competitors yet, but they will be. Maybe somebody's getting ready to move into the area where you are, and they're going to become a new competitor to you.
Mhm.
Or maybe they're learning or just deciding. They're sitting at their kitchen table right now, kind of deciding, am I going to start this or not? So the new entrants. So the people on stage would be, or in your industry would be, your competitor, the new entrants, and somebody that you could be a companion with or a collaborator with. And it's real important that you, as a business, identify those people or those businesses or organizations in your industry. So that's the first step, right? Is to identify who that is. The second step, and unfortunately, I'm going to change metaphors now from the school play to the understanding these players, understanding a little bit more about them. So now we're going to think of a volleyball team or a football team, and you're the coach. You got a big game coming up in the next week or so. And what you do with your other coaching staff is you take these players that you're going to have opposing you, and you start dissecting them. Where are they strong? What are they really good at? You could imagine the Cleveland Brown coach is sitting around, they're going to play somebody next week, and they're looking at film of that opponent. And they're looking at the quarterback. What are the strengths of that quarterback? What are the weaknesses of that quarterback? What about the wide receivers? What about the running backs? Where are they good? Where they do? And you are beginning to then identify your strengths or their strengths and weaknesses, and as well as how you compare to that. So we have a quarterback that's great at getting the ball out of his hand really quickly. We're not really good at defending that, right? So you're beginning to understand now your strengths and weaknesses and their strengths and weaknesses. And that is a really important part there. So any thoughts about that?
Well, absolutely. One, so some people, clients may be like, well, how do I even know who these people are in my industry? And that's where we can help you with market research and helping you identify the players in the market. But also, I think, we all think we have the best cookie, right? Or we all think all of that. But it's more to me, maybe you haven't been in the industry as long or something like that, but sitting down and really realizing this is when we talk about your value proposition, how you're different, how you're better, what sets you apart, right? We are all different from the other people doing similar things to us or the same exact thing, right? We have a different way of presenting it or whatever. So this is so important because that's how you're going to communicate with your client and then also with your customer, and then also maybe not over sell yourself or promise something you can't deliver, right? If you're not as strong in an area that needs some work. I just kind of babbled my way through that, but it's
No, it's good.
such a big topic, and it's so important to know these things about yourself. I think that's what this is a little tangent. One thing about entrepreneurship is you really have to know who you are,
For
right?
sure.
And
Yeah,
you
for
really have
sure.
to be able to understand your strengths and weaknesses. And, I mean, I think that's something that maybe you don't know right when you get started, but you certainly learn it throughout. But so important.
Yeah, you definitely do. So in this process right here, not only are you looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the opponent, but you are identifying how do we stack up against that, right?
Right.
So how do we stop them from the run? How do we have to make changes, right? And you learn a lot about what you're good at and what you're not good at, right?
Right.
And what you don't want to do is compete with a competitor at their strength, right?
Right.
You
Right.
don't want to do that. But most people, if you don't know that, so there could be a company that is a heritage company that everybody loves. When everybody comes into town, we have a donut shop here in town that's been here for 100 years, right? I was in there the other day. People from Denver are there taking pictures, right? Because they've
Mhm.
heard about it all. You don't want to play against them in their
Right.
strength. You have to find out where their strengths are and then figure out where you can compete with them because they're not good at everything, right?
Right. Right.
That's the important part of this. And that's what, when you're coaching, that's what they're looking for. Where is a weakness or an opportunity we can exploit, right?
Mhm.
And so in the market, that's the same way. You never want to compete on the same product, the same service, because when a customer then looks at that, the only place they can differentiate you is on price. And I'm going to pick who's cheapest. Well,
Right.
that is a road to the bottom, right? You
Mhm.
do not want to do that. And so
Mhm.
that's why this is really important to understand your market. Take your time to understand this and what you're good at. And what
Right.
you are doing then is you're looking for places in the industry, right? On the stage or on the field where there are openings, where people aren't playing. And maybe you could then, that's the third point, right?
Right.
Is to refine based on the data that you now have, refine your product, refine your service, create a new service perhaps, or a new product, and go into an area that's got an opening,
Mhm.
right? It could be no one's delivering. You might
Right.
be able to add delivery. Nobody is doing this particular thing. And all it would do is take a little shift, and I could have an opening with very little competition, and I could make things happen, right? And
Yeah.
so that's the importance of this. Rather than battling head to head, is you're looking for openings in the industry that you could then exploit.
Yeah. I'm such a believer in that. And it may be that you're tweaking your product a little bit. It may be that you're tweaking the service that you offer. Like, so you might have this idea in your head of what you think you're going to create, and it pivots a little bit, and that's okay.
It
That's
is,
okay. Or it's as simple as maybe they're not offering delivery and you offer delivery, right? That's
for sure.
tweaking it, right? But I just had this conversation with a group of entrepreneurs who are in the growth phase at an event, and I said, they asked me what my biggest piece of advice was, and I had three, of course, because I can never have one, but it was be open to pivoting, be open to adapting, be open. Yeah,
Yeah, for
to
sure. Because there is one way, as I mentioned before, and I like to talk, Bobby Flay says you can't learn to cook by just reading a book,
right,
right? It's only when you're in the kitchen and you're doing it and you're making the mistakes, right? So when you start your business, you don't know everything, right? You
right,
think you know everything about it, but as you get into the business, you need to adapt. You need to be
right.
agile, to pivot, to turn, and all
Yeah,
that. And having said this, if you're a growth business, and this is what go back to the stage kind of a thing, that the actor doesn't show up until act two, right? The reason you need to be vigilant about this process of watching the market and what's happening in your industry is because new competitors are constantly coming, right?
mhm,
And changing. So the players change. So for instance, in a football team, the quarterback might be hurt, right? So
mhm,
now we're putting in another quarterback that's got skills the other one didn't have, right? So now you have to adapt again. And that's apropos for looking at your industry and staying vigilant in your industry
mhm,
as
mhm,
well. And then finally, once you have identified your competitors and your rivals and your collaborators, and you've taken a deeper dive and understand some of the weaknesses and strengths and things of that nature of both you and the competitor, and you've refined your products based upon the knowledge you've gained, then it's time finally to plant your flag and go after it. Just be aggressively go after it and build your brand, build your market, build market share. But you're doing it now in a smart way. You're investing money smart. because you've done the research, you're investing energy, you're targeting your message a lot better, you're building your brand because you have a lot more information. And now you can be really confident to go into that market space and be really aggressive and win there.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where, um, people will go with the starting your business. Oh, I'm going to go out and everyone's going to want what I have, and I'm going to do the thing, and I'll be making this much money by, within the first year. I mean, maybe, likely not, because you spend the first couple years testing, learning about your market space, learning about the needs of your customers, learning where you fit, learning all of these things so that you can then, while you're building your brand, then you've kind of like, then you can be aggressive, right? Like it
Yeah.
takes time.
Yeah,
It takes time. You can start to learn it before you launch as well, but it's mostly, just being on the ground, doing the thing where you're learning all of this.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And then you can hit, again, you can learn some of it before you get started, but you're really spending the first year or two really figuring this stuff out.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to be open and learn the industry that you're in and learn what everyone else is doing and where there's a need that you can fix a pain
Yeah,
point you can solve. Yep.
for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. So let's go over them again. One is to
Yep.
identify if you're to find your industry, the position in the industry that you want to go or should go, is identify your competitors, your rivals, the new entrants, and your collaborators.
And oh, sorry. I was
No, go
just
ahead.
point when, like, even when you're growing. So I've been in business 18 years. I'm still always looking at who's entering the market,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
Who are the new shiny objects, right? Like with their business and what they're doing, and am I staying relevant, right? So
Yeah.
it's not just that.
Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt.
because
That was the
no,
point
you're
I
fine.
wanted to make. Or
Yeah.
yeah,
With technology, there's new product improvements
right,
constantly, right? So you
right,
need to constantly be evolving in that. So
right,
identifying the players.
right,
Number two, really learning about them, strengths and weaknesses, learning your strengths and weaknesses, looking for openings that nobody's getting, and don't compete head to head.
right.
Looking for these entrances. Thirdly, then, is refining your product, your service to kind of match that space that's open. And then
Mhm.
number four, just go after it.
Go
Just
after it,
really
right.
go after it because you've got the info. And so that's how you begin to position yourself in your market. And one thing I will say, I have two resources for this. One is to kind of show you what the industry looks like and where the players are in the industry. That's a really neat framework if you want to visually see that.
Mhm.
And the second one then is when you are really looking deep into the rivals or competitors. I've got a really good sheet. There's a really good worksheet that is several categories like customer service and how do we compete in those areas that you can literally lay it out. It's very, very simple. And the
Yeah.
SBDC will have those.
Yes, yes, we'll be able to provide those to you, and the SBDC through coaching can help you with all of that. So
Yeah, for
definitely,
sure.
definitely. Thank you for those.
Yeah.
So is there anything else we should know about where we fit our
I
industry? Or
think that's a lot, right?
it is a
So
lot. It's a
yeah,
lot. Yeah.
so it is a process, and sometimes people will think it's tedious because they just want to get out there. But
Right.
working smart and covering these bases will can speed up your success for
Yes.
sure and help you not wander in the wilderness so long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely. And that's where the SBDC can help you. So thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate it. And I look
yeah,
forward to our next Let's Chat.
me too. All right.